All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for attending the Philanthropy and Service Progress training, leadership training for 2021. I know this is a little different than we normally do with Leadership Academy and President's Academy and Volunteer Academy and whatnot. However, I think it's a great thing that we can still continue to do this for everyone. Hopefully y'all were able to see a little bit of my bio, and I want to give you a little bit of background on myself so that it allows y'all to figure out, and I apologize I said y'all because I'm from New York, but I've lived in Texas for 9 years, so it's been ingrained in me. So a little bit about my background. For the last 25 years, I've been in the banking industry. That being said, for 20 of those years, I was president of different banks, Bank of America, 6 states for them, and a bunch of small banks. However, the reason I state that is because the reason about my background is the fact that when we talk about service and philanthropy, specifically serious fun, I'm the banker that wears a suit every day and ultimately ends up going to camp 20 years ago. And so I'm the stuffy ass banker that goes to camp and figures out, and camp is, for those of you that don't know, is primarily medical personnel, nurses, doctors, that sort of thing. And 20 years ago, people with kids that I didn't have at the time. So I had never known anything about that. And here I am trying to figure out what the heck's going on, the different medical issues with these kids, that sort of thing. So it really, and we'll get to the part about day in the life of camp and all of that here shortly. So I just wanted to kind of let you know that, you don't have to be in the medical field or pre-med or what have you to enjoy camp and to enjoy service, quite frankly. So one of the things that, and so we'll talk a little bit about service and philanthropy and why, and what we're going to, and what the fraternity does and why we do it. And then I'm going to open it up for our chat session here for questions that you can really be honest and ask honest questions as far as what is camp or what is service, what is philanthropy, how do we do it, different things. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll have our first, really the only slide that we have, and it just kind of guides us through, and then we'll do the chat session, and then if we end early, that's great. I'll give you back the rest of the day for your own good. So one of the things is, what is philanthropy and service? And quite simply, philanthropy and service is helping others. Service is volunteering. Philanthropy is donating, right? And so we have instilled that for a number of years in Phi Tau Nation, if you will, as far as why we do it. And the main reason that we do it is because it's part of our creed and part of our ritual, right? And for those of you that I'm not sure who's on this Zoom, if you will, but so I don't know if you're initiated or not, but either one, our creed or our ritual basically say, we help others. We are not our brother's keeper. We help each other, whether it's a brother or anyone else. And that's the main reason that we're here tonight. That is the main reason service and philanthropy is always and has always been since the beginning of, since 1906, has been a part of our fraternity. It's not just about the fraternity. It's not just about social. It's not just about anything else. It's about helping others and helping ourselves achieve more. We've had countless number of congressmen, senators, just amazing CEOs, astronauts, and we all help each other. And so one of the main things, before I really get into everything else, that I want to stress to you is that if you've been initiated, or you've taken your associate initiation, if you will, the associate ceremony, understand that you've taken an oath, and that oath says that you will be a Phi Tau for life and longer, right? That's why we enter chapter eternal. But most importantly, it is not 4 years of your life. And trust me, I've had several chapter brothers that just were there for 4 years and, they were gone after that. However, I chose to be a part of this fraternity to this day. I'm 46 years old, graduated in 1996. Most of you, all of you probably weren't even born at that point. But I'm still involved. And this fraternity has gotten me through some of the hardest times of my life, right? From my father dying, from divorce to everything. And and moving jobs and quitting jobs, getting fired from jobs, everything. And through each and every one of those times, fraternity brothers were there. I can't even tell you the countless number of calls and texts or anything. And the networking that's involved with the fraternity is amazing. So I beg of you, I implore you to stick with it, continue after your 4 years as you go on to graduate council, volunteer for the fraternity, do anything you can. That being said, back to why, what is philanthropy and service? Like I said, it's part of our creed, it's part of our ritual, and we should really do it. I mean, we took the oath, but beyond that, why do we do it? If it's because we have to do it, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. You really are. There's no better reason to do something for others than to get that human feeling out of it and to feel good. And you shouldn't do it so that you feel good. It will come to you, right? We do it as a fraternity and brothers because we're men of character. That's been instilled of us. That's what we're supposed to do. It's just like our founding fathers in 1906, our 4 founding fathers. They instilled that. They created this, and we still do it today. It's also like, the people that have come to us since then, Mr. Bill, on to our current president, Bill Brash, everybody, we have been instilling this forever. And most importantly, it's just like our brother Paul Newman asked us to do, right? So in 1995, Paul Newman asked us to switch our philanthropy as a national fraternity from Children's Heart Foundation, and I was still in college, from Children's Heart Foundation to what was then called Hole in the Wall camps. And many of you hopefully have done some research on Paul Newman. Great movies. I recommend Slapshot for one. But the most important movie to us would be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where he was part of the Hole in the Wall gang, which is where then he got the name for the original camp, and then the association of camps, which the second camp was called Double H Ranch, which I'm honored to be part of the national board of, and on the on several national committees for Serious Fun, Children's Network. So they switched the name to get some more notoriety and understand that it was about children and seriously and terminally ill children. When it started, it was all about terminally ill kids and sending them to summer camp. It's great, but what's better is right now, over these how many ever years, almost 30 now, it's changed from terminally ill kids to seriously ill kids. And that's all because of medicine and how it's advanced. And so we can allow and help these kids survive, but they have to survive on a daily basis. And they're, quite frankly, in the hospital nearly every week of the year. And that's terrible. So we have to remember that. So Paul asks us to do something. And when a fraternity brother asks us to do something, we should do it, right? Because we are our brother's keeper. And so that is an amazing, like, dream gift, rather, he's given us. He gave us this. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that. But mostly, I want to talk about service. And service to others is one of those things that we truly need to do. Because if you're not helping others, you're not really helping yourself. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, we don't know what happens when we pass away. It could be about karma. And you don't want karma to be a bitch. So if we do good, then, hey, maybe we get in the pearly gates. Maybe that gives us a little notch in the, an extra notch that, maybe some of the bad things we've done, it overrides it and we get in there. So, and who knows what happens then, right? So we should really do service. And when you're on campus, there's various things that you can do. And we did this throughout my 4 years and beyond. What we did was, we went and raked leaves for the old lady that lived next door to the fraternity house that probably hated us, right? Because we'd have huge parties Friday and Saturday night, probably hated us. But when we raked leaves for her or shoveled her snow when it actually snowed in Indiana, that helped, right? But it made us feel good. We volunteered at the local housing authority as basketball coaches. 3/4 of my chapter didn't even know anything about basketball. We kind of had to help them out with that. But the kids didn't care. They just were happy that there was volunteers there helping them. So those are things that we need to do going forward. And especially in this day and age, right? Because look at how terrible this last year has been. I mean, really, it's been almost a year. I'm fairly certain I had COVID a year ago this weekend. And right before the Super Bowl, I tried to literally like power through a Super Bowl game, even though I didn't care about the two teams. Don't care about them this year since my Packers lost last weekend. But we've seen some terrible things. In fact, camp has seen terrible things, and we've all done, what we tried to do and continue to do is be good stewards of our community. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that Phi Tau has done. And now I'm going to give you some numbers, and these are from 2019 because, like I just said, 2020 not fair, right? And I'm sure all of you guys stayed up New Year's Eve 2019, or if you call it 2020, whatever you call it, and celebrated the fact, 2020. Well, what a shit show that was, right? Pardon my French, but I did tell you I'm from New York and I'm also Italian. So, so our average in 2019, our spring community service hours, the totals were 28,000 hours. Can you imagine that? Just from a bunch of, what people think of dumb fraternity guys. 28,000 hours. In the spring, in the fall, another 28,000. So our total was almost 57,000 hours. We had 17 spring serious fun camp volunteers, 32 fall, and I believe we had countless numbers for the summer, for the whole summer. So that's amazing. Our philanthropic events are outstanding. They're always outstanding, and again, 2020 wasn't something that we can really use as a benchmark. But in the spring, we raised $163,000 for various charities. In the fall, we raised 154. The total was $318,000, and over 100,000 of that was for Serious Fun. And so, not only have we taken our ability to, not only what Paul Newman asked us to do and raise 100,000, but there's $200,000 in countless service hours that we have done beyond what Paul asked us to do to other charities, to other organizations, and things in each of your individual university communities, which is amazing. So the next thing, it comes out to $80 per active fraternity person. As far as a donation, not necessarily that all of y'all donated $80, but you helped raise $80 each. And so that's phenomenal. Because if we, and we all know social media and all of that, and if we could raise, if everyone's friend donated $5 and make it go viral, we could increase those numbers tremendously. So there are various things out there in the community that you can do and help out. Lots of people, you see all the good deeds people are doing nowadays. If you watch the Today Show or any of those kind of shows, all of the good things, kids are making face masks, things are doing different things. And so, the next thing I want to talk about is actual camp and what is it? And so, like I said, 1995, Paul asked if we would allow his charity, Association of Hole in the Wall Camps, to become our philanthropy, and we obviously gracefully accepted. And a few years later, I became the first national service advisor to the council to create more of a link between what then was Hole in the Wall and now Serious Fun, between us and them, and to get more of us to volunteer. And so 20 years ago, which is a little later, honestly, I was very selfish at the time. I was just out of college, did different, I only had a week vacation, so I was going to use it on myself and go to Mexico or go wherever I was going to go. However, once I got more vacation and became less selfish, I decided to go to camp in upstate New York, which is called Double H Ranch. In that year, right before I went, I had taken a note from one of our amazing Phi Tau volunteers, former national counselor, has done this. I believe he's already done a session on progress this last week, or maybe potentially doing it next week. Stephen Ruperick, at which a convention in St. Louis, Missouri, he asked me, he said, I'd like to do something different and raise money for these kids. I can't go, but I want to raise money. So we shaved his head in the middle of a Hilton in St. Louis, Missouri, and raised money for it. And at which point he had hair and now he doesn't. So he's not really raising money by shaving his head anymore. But 20 years ago, right before I went to my first camp, I was running a bank of 80 branches and told them I would be shaving my head. And they decided to raise money to see which branch could shave my head right before I went. And they did bake sales, they did everything. And the day before I went to camp, I was in the lucky branch that won, and they shaved my head. Even customers that came in were asking, what the heck are you doing? And they're like, this is the president of the whole bank, and he's shaving his head. And they'd give me $20 to take a swipe. And I sat there all day, and it was amazing. And so that turned into, now 20 years later, I created a charity back then, that same day, called Parker Foundation for Health and Happiness. Double H Ranch, the two H's mean health and happiness. So we stole a little bit about their name to make it good. And we have 2 events a year. We have a annual event in April, which you're all invited to. It's right outside Dallas, Texas. It's a beer and wine tasting. We give away a condo anywhere in the world. And you can buy raffle tickets, and don't even have to be here to win. So that's cool. Second place we figured out was $500. Third place is $250, and the raffle ticket's $20. So pay $20, you could win $250. So those are things we do. And then at the end of the event, anyone that wants to shave their heads shaves their heads in solidarity for the campers. And so this year will be, unfortunately, last year we had to cancel because of COVID. However, this year I still shaved my head last year, and we made it viral. And these are things you can do. Think outside the box during these times. Because we had to cancel, we decided my kids shaved my heads. Both Avery and Cash and Halen shaved my head, and we challenged, kind of a la the ice bucket challenge, other people to do it that we knew had been to the event and shaved their heads before. And we called it hashtag Pass the Clip. And so that was a really good thing. We raised significantly less than we did the year before because we didn't get to have the event or give away the condo. But this will be the 20th year that I shaved my head, and I keep it shaved until the last day I go to camp. And so this will be the 20th year that I volunteer a week of my life to go to camp. And my kids raise money, and all year they save their change, and they dump it in the local bank. And what happens is, you think there's like a bunch of pennies in there. Next thing you know, there's $200, and they have no idea that they raised that much money for camp. And now that they're old enough, if there's space available, that we're not taking up campers' spaces, because I'm on the board, they allow me to bring my kids, which is an amazing thing. And one of the most amazing things that I have ever gleaned from camp is the ability to teach my daughter that no one is different than her. She will go up to kids in wheelchairs in airports with her iPad, and she will say, "Hey, I'm watching YouTube Kids. Let's watch." And the moms will be like, most kids just stare. I've never seen an 8-year-old come up and just want to play with my son or daughter. I said, well, she doesn't see a difference because she knows camp. And she's instilled that in her stepbrother now. And really, both of them will do anything and everything. They made signs for the police department, all of that. So those are service things that you can do, that you can instill in others eventually when y'all have kids, that sort of thing. So one of the main thing, and I'm gonna give it up to some question and answers here in a couple minutes. But one of the main things I wanted to talk about is, what is camp? And camp is, like I mentioned before, it's literally 1 week out of one child's life that they're not in a hospital. It's not 1 week out of your life. It's 1 week out of their lives. And quite frankly, it's 1 week out of their parents' lives that they don't have to worry about their kids. The first year they worry about their kids because they have no idea where they're going. But it's 1 week out of their parents' lives that they don't have to literally take care of their son or daughter 24/7, 365. They can trust us. They can trust the doctors, the nurses, the college counselors, the volunteers like me to make sure their child's safe, getting the right medicine, put them on zip lines, do everything. And so, the first day ever that I was at camp as a banker, like I mentioned before, the stuffy-ass banker, that night, the first day they asked me to feed a child with a feeding tube and a breathing machine. And I was scared to death. And quite frankly, it was terrifying to me. And I went back that night to my cabin. And as a volunteer, I got to stay with another male volunteer. They bunked us up together. And I said to him, and he had been around the camp scene for a long time. And I said to him, I don't think I could do this. This is not me. I'm not like a father. I don't even like kids, quite frankly. And I have nothing to do with medicine. I don't know what I'm doing. And he said to me, you can do two things. One, you can go home tomorrow, and it's admirable that you tried. It really is. Or you can wake up in the morning and just go with it. And I woke up that next morning, went to the crappy gym at camp, did some weights, got my, went back, showered, did all that, got my coffee, went down and set the table for all the kids, and just went with it. And from that day on, it has been the most special thing in my life. So a day in a life is, you have breakfast, and then you could do arts and crafts. Depends on which day and which set, which little thing that the schedule is. You could do archery, boating, where you teach kids how to fish, swimming, just all sorts of things. And then you go to lunch, and then you go to the zip line, and you do all of, and then you end up at dinner, and then there's always an activity at night, whether it's a camp scavenger hunt or the camp dance. And I'm going to tell you, the camp dance is probably one of the most amazing things in the world, because I can't dance. And most of these kids are, from Double H, they can really dance. They've seen the videos, they've seen the TikTok, they've done all that. And they think it is the best thing in the world to try to get this clumsy white guy to dance. And it is, because you have to go by the dressing room, the theater dressing room, and whatever these kids tell you to put on, you put on. I've worn an Elsa dress to the dance. I've worn anything. So, those are things that I remember the most. And each night you have a cabin chat, and you get to talk about with these kids, like, what was the best part of today? It might be a question. Or if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would you have lunch with? And they're just amazing. And I'm gonna kind of end it with a little thing about camp. And I'll apologize if I get a little teary-eyed, because this camp means the most to me. All of them. I've been to nearly every camp in the United States, and I'm hoping to go to the camp in Ireland, and then kind of bookmark it with playing some golf. But there was one year, several years ago, actually 9 years ago, that the camp exec staff knew that I was about to have my first baby. I was going to have a girl. So most men at camp, and I see some questions, so I'll get to them here shortly. But most of us guys that would go to camp will be placed in a boys' cabin, 6 to 16, because they need more men volunteers. Why Paul Newman asked us to do it, because women always volunteer. So there's plenty of women. And if you're in a girls' cabin, you can't do much. You can do the daily activities, but you can't do the medical stuff, the medical lifts. You can't do like showering and all of that, because obviously you're a guy. So I had always been in the boys' cabins, and then this particular year, the executive staff decided to mess with me because I was having a baby girl, and basically said, we're putting you in the 6-year-old girl's cabin so you know what your life will be like in 6 years. And I said, okay. let's do this. And so there I am. Campers start to arrive. You have to like think of things for them to do while they're doing all the medical intake and this and that. And next thing you know, I have a bow around my shaved head. I have my eyes painted like I look like a bank robber pretty much, because they were just thinking they knew how to do the eyeshadow and all of that. And I had lipstick all over the place, and I had the most fun of my life. But the most important takeaway that I had from that entire week, and it's a totally different dynamic than being in a boys' cabin, that's for sure, was the fact that at one of the cabin chats, they had asked me, one of the questions was, what do you miss most while you're here? And I told him, I said, my stepdaughter at the time would always tell me, because I would travel every week of the year for work, and she'd see that carry-on suitcase as I was leaving, and she knew that I go to camp every year. And she said to me, where are you going this week? And I said, I'm going to camp, baby. And she said, that's fine. She never liked it when I went off for work. She said, that's fine, Dad. I'm sharing you with the campers because I love you and they love you. And I mentioned that during the cabin chat. These 6-year-old girls remembered that. And the last night of camp, when they have, after the talent show and after we have a wish boat ceremony and all of that, these campers give or the counselors give campers a bag, and we give them a silly award, like, and the volunteers get an award when they leave too. Like one year I was the baldest beaver and all these stupid things that I've ever gotten. But they give a bag with an award, and there's a bear inside. And that bear is so that these kids can take the bear to the hospital and hug them and remember camp. And so at the very end of the ceremony, I know I'm getting this award, whatever the crazy name of the award is. And all of the kids stood up, not the cabin leader. The kids stood up and gave me a bag with a bear in it. And I said, well, what's this? And they said, this is for your daughter because she shared you with us. And so that's the epitome of camp, and that's why we go. That's the benefit of it. Because those kids, as rough of a life that they've had, don't care about themselves. They care more about others. And that's what our fraternity has instilled in us, to care more about others. And so that's why we need to bring it back, because we need to be human. And in this day and age, we could all use a little bit more of that. So that being said, I have a few questions on the screen here. So I'm going to go, and I think, Lily, I just need to answer them, correct? Is what you told me pre thing. So I'll just answer them, and I won't type, because then you guys can hear me, so you don't need to see me type. So first question I have is, what's the most creative way you've seen a chapter raise money for camp? Gosh, there's so many. There's so many. When I was in school, we had a thing called Phi-Tau Derby, which was basically a silly Olympics, in which, fraternities and sororities would have their contestants, and they could do, spin around on a baseball bat, and all these different things. And whoever won a trophy, but they all had to donate to be into the event. And then they would also raise money. We had a Derby queen and a Derby king, and we'd sit out in what we would call, like our main area of campus, and for a whole week. And they could, you could vote for your fraternity or sorority brother by putting in change. Some people put in dollars, some people put in like whatever they had in their pocket. Let's face it, we were all college kids at the time, so we didn't have much money, unless we went to give plasma or what have you. So those are things. I know that when I was a domain director years and 20, 30 years ago, the guys at St. Cloud State, they have a thing called Freeze-a-thon, where they sit outside for an entire, I believe it's 72 hours, might be a week. And if y'all have ever been to St. Cloud, Minnesota, it's cold and it snows. I've been there in April and there's still 20 feet of snow piles from where they removed the snow. So that there's another way. I've seen so many different ways that you can do things, and it really is about where the campus that you're on, right? Because each campus is different. And so what we did on mine, or what they do in St. Cloud, Michigan Tech does, they do that. They have a snow, like they build like snow castles and snow forts. And what they do is amazing. So really it's all about like creating competition amongst not only fraternities and sororities, but think about other student groups. Like we partnered at my undergrad at the University of Evansville, we had 5 fraternities and actually, 5 fraternities, 4 sororities, and then we added a 5th sorority. But we also had what they called off-campus fraternities, because the school didn't recognize the historically Black fraternities and sororities. And so we partnered with them one year, and we did a step contest, and we made it so much fun because these fraternities and sororities, if you've ever seen them, they can do the step and they can actually dance. And then there's us. And it was terrible, but we raised so much money and it was so much fun. So all those different things to figure out, what you can do to raise. So next question is, how do you motivate apathetic members to serve? Well, one of the things that you can do is, honestly, if you can just get them to one event or one volunteering effort, I think that it'll be a breakthrough. Now, some people let's face it, you will never break through to them. You won't motivate them. They're there for 4 years to drink. That's it. They don't believe in our creed. They don't believe in our creed or our ritual. And that's fine. We're always going to have those people, right? We need the dues. We'll just leave it at that. But I think that if you can involve them in some of the activities, or when you come back and say how amazing it was that we just volunteered at this, at this basketball fundraiser or what have you, as long as you're leading by example and talking about it. I can't tell you how many times, whether I'm in a business meeting, on an airplane, at a bar, and someone's like, why is your head shaved? You look like a skinny idiot. And I tell them, because this is what I do. And I'm okay looking like an idiot because this is why. And it gets them involved and it gets them going. And I say, oh, by the way, my charity has a golf outing and all the things go to Serious Fun, and here's it, and so those are things like you just have to keep going. So next question is, what's the best way to participate during COVID? Well, that's a good question. So all of the camps have created virtual. So this summer we couldn't have Double H as a board. We decided it was medically impossible for the safety of these kids, because they're the most immune compromised to this disease than anyone else, that we couldn't have them come to camp. So we did virtual weeks of camp, and we did different little things. They would Zoom, all these Zoom meetings. We had all these campers all over the screen. and we would do the same things that we would do at camp. Now, for me, it was a little awkward because I do need a little motivation, and that motivation comes from being at camp. So if everyone else is dancing and beating on the lunch table, or these kids are telling me you need to eat this oatmeal with sausage in it and hot salsa and yogurt, and we're going to put some ketchup in it, I need that motivation. So it was a little awkward for me. But then at the end, after everyone got started and we're all zooming and we're dancing around doing all these different things, it was just like being at camp. And quite frankly, that week at camp is that I missed it. But these Zoom calls helped me because I need camp. I don't need to be around stuffy bankers that work for me that are really more childish and selfish than any of these campers. This camp like recreates me for the year. Like, I could be down, and then I know to the exact day when I'm going to camp. And that's one of the best things. So, so log on to any of the, so go to seriousfun.org, and you can click through the different camps that are near you. They don't have to be near you anymore because we're all Zooming. So, and they all have volunteer opportunities to just get on these things, and you can just have fun and talk to a camper, be a pen pal, all these different things that are available to us out there. So one of the next question is, how many camps have you been to? So I have been to 11 camps so far. And the main camp every year for 1 week is Double H Ranch in upstate New York. However, all the others in the United States, I have been to, whether it's been volunteering with Founders Monthly Service, in the National Community Service event, or just going for a weekend, or if I'm, one time I was in Los Angeles and I ran up to Painted Turtle and I called them, told them what I had been doing, and I really wanted to help for the day. And they were like, great, come on, let's go. So I've been to all of those around here, and I will continue to do that. So that being said, it looks like that was the last question. Do you guys have any additional questions that you may have thought of while I was talking? You guys were just listening. I'll give you a second to think of something, but I also wanted to give you again, a way to contact me if you think of any questions. Everyone thinks of something after you get off one of these. So obviously my name is Matt Parker, and my email is parker1422@gmail.com. And I'll give you my phone number. Just don't, send it out to like CVS or any of those, so I get a bunch of text messages. But my number is 616-780-5423. Okay. So does anyone have any last questions? Amazing. Well, hey, I'm going to leave you guys with this. There's a couple things that we need to remember. One, for all of you guys, health and happiness, right? Keep your health in mind and be happy. Keep everyone's health in mind, and make sure you can make someone happy, right? Jimmy V, one of my inspirations, said, if you can laugh, cry, and help someone else in a day, that's a freaking good day. So let's remember that, right? Be good humans. Continue to do what you're doing. Continue to live the ritual, and continue to go far. Thank y'all. Have a good night. And like I said, contact me anytime you want. Cheers.